of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
And now let's prepare to go within. We breathe comfortably and deeply. We settle into our chairs. And we release all the outer distractions. We move deeper. And we begin to feel safe, comforted, at peace. When we remember those we love who have made their transition, accompanied perhaps with a pang of grief, we also remember that power which transcends mortality. That power is love. The love we experienced with those who have returned home is still here and still with us. It is the power that can never die or be destroyed. Remember now, for a time, in this silence, love. comforted by love. We are ready to return. Thank you, God. And so it is.
Thank you. I have an interesting story to share with you before I go into the planned talk of the day. Thursday, I went to Chicago to the gravesite of Patrick. As most of you know, it was a year on Thursday that Patrick left us. And it was a very emotional day, needless to say. And and when I got home, I had bought groceries the day before because there was no food in my house from vacation. So I thought, if I don't get this fresh fruit washed and the strawberries cut up, I'm going to end up throwing them away in 4 days. So despite the state I was in, I decided I needed to do that. So I did. So in the middle of the strawberries, and I brought it to show you, there was a heart. And you can't tell me that spirit doesn't work in very mysterious ways, because I don't know about any of you. Maybe David, because he's a farmer, but has anybody ever found a heart in their strawberries? I mean, right? So there, and what this says to me, and what I would like to share with you, is that there's always little glimpses and glimmers that come to you from spirit or from your loved one. You know, when you find that penny, when you find a penny on the ground, according to my grandmother, though, it has to be heads up. But a penny on the ground is left there by your loved one. And of course, we know the cardinal that says an angel is always near. But I don't think anybody has ever found a heart in their strawberries. So I probably won't eat it. I don't know what I'll do with it, but I have it. So frame it. Yeah, maybe I could freeze it, frame it, or do something. Or maybe we could take a picture of it and I could frame that picture. That's a good idea. So, yeah. And it's interesting too. So I wanted to wear white today. Another thing I want to share with you. And I picked a book out of my library, and it's a very, very old one. Well, it's actually 1955. It was written by, it's called Dry Those Tears, and it's by a Unity author, and it's all about death and dying. And in that, I was just reading bits and pieces to prepare for this, and it said that white is actually the color to wear for funerals. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. I was going to wear that anyhow, however, he didn't need to tell me. But it was odd. So this morning I went into AI and I said, I read blah, 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 blah. Is there any truth to this? And AI said, I call him Alfie. What's it all about, Alfie, for those of you that are old? And so Alfie said to me, yes, there's a lot of truth in that, though mostly in the Eastern traditions. They wear white, and in Africa, that wear white for funeral. In the West, we're more somber, and it's usually black, navy, or charcoal gray. He said, however, when you're doing a life celebration, that's not a tragedy and you're celebrating, like somebody's 92 and we've all loved that person and we're celebrating their life, then all colors are acceptable. So I just wanted to give you that tidbit. You wanted tidbits. That was my tidbit for the day. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you. So I came across, though, in my reading in the past 3 days, I came across this beautiful reminder this week that we must never truly let go of those who have returned to their Creator. Instead, it said, our task is to find a way to distill our history, to hold on to the love alone and leave the rest, the weight of the past, behind. And I thought that's so beautiful, going through this transformation that I myself have gone through in this past year, because, yeah, I don't care what the story is, it's not perfect. None of our stories are perfect. So leaving the rest behind, that weight of the past behind. But to heal is not to forget, but to transform. It is to pass through this valley of sadness until you reach a place where you can smile as they gently walk through your mind and you've found the true meaning of remembrance. From my own experience of this year, I can tell you that that's where the freedom lies. When you allow, rather than, I'm not going to think about this because it's too painful, but when you allow them to walk gently through your mind or just float through your consciousness, it's a freedom, and it releases that heaviness that we carry and allowing our hearts again to feel light again. And not because the love is gone, but because the burden is gone. The love is always there. But when we can release the burden and allow ourselves little by little, and everybody is different. There's no timetable for grief, and every person has their own path. And grief is not a test. It's not, there's no grading, there's no passing, there's no failing. Yet there comes a time, in your own time, there comes a time when you realize you can remember your loved one with softness and love and not remember the pain. So I was thinking about spring and the winter and finally the earth coming back to life again. So all winter, as we know, in many parts of the country, the earth is brown and it's barren rather, and covered with snow. But beneath that apparent lifelessness that we see all around us, the roots and the plants have maintained themselves in their necessary hibernation. But underneath, things are starting to move, right? Then comes spring, year after year, with no help from any of us, right? But spring does come, and the earth comes to life again and blooms, right? In all the glorious colors. Right now we're just getting, hit with the abundance of daffodils everywhere, the beautiful color of yellow, just excluding warmth and sun and brightness. And maybe this is just the true way of life. We all go through the winters of our lives, each one of us. But at some point, we open our hearts, heal, and allow the joy of spring to bring us peace. And we're renewed with new life. An affirmation I thought of while I was writing this, actually yesterday, may I learn to trust the changing seasons of my life. May I trust them. And may I trust a life with a capital L. May I trust a life that supports me through my journey of grief and then on to healing. And I think that's a beautiful affirmation. And if anybody would ever like it, I'll just make copies. No, actually, Jules will make copies. And we'll have it for you on the table next week. But we also must speak about forgiveness, for it is the cornerstone of true healing. And what was very interesting, you can't tell me that Spirit doesn't know what Spirit's doing. On the 30th of April, Patrick's day of leaving us, the daily word for the day was forgiveness. Yeah, right? I went, oh, you can't convince me there's not an intelligence out there. And I recently read a sobering reminder. Every day that we do not forgive, it's as if we are ingesting tiny bits of poison. Think about that. We are ingesting tiny bits of poison. See, we often think that forgiveness requires two people, but you can forgive without even being involved in the other person, and you can also forgive those who have passed. Forgive them, love them, and treasure them. You do this by sending love through your hearts and through your consciousness. And we can release both of them and ourselves from the shadows of the past. Forgiveness is what makes us one with the human family. It allows us to step out of darkness and live, finally, in the sunlight of the present moment. All of our human actions, of all of them, forgiveness alone is the key that would make the world a miracle of infinite possibilities. Forgiveness is the key. And it clears a path. It clears the path so that we can look back, not with pain, but with the gentle smile that I spoke of earlier. And I read from Rabindranath Tagore about people who are a guest in our lives. And did you ever think about that? That people are actually a guest in our lives. And as I think about all of you, and as I thought about what I was reading, I thought, yeah, every one of you, besides being a friend and someone that I love, you're a guest. You're a guest in my life. And how wonderful for me. And this is what he wrote. He wrote, "Guest of my life, you came in the early dawn, and in that night you left. Your name was uttered by the spring flowers and by the shower of rain. You brought the harp into my house, and you brought the lamp. And after you had taken your leave, I found God's footprints at my door." This poem by Tagore is beautiful because it reframes for us the pain of loss into the celebration of a sacred visit. So each person that comes into your life, start looking at people a bit differently. A sacred visit, be it a lifetime or a moment in time. It's a sacred visit. And I found this meeting, I really sat with it and looked at it and pulled it apart. And it can be understood through three themes. It's a life for all seasons. There's a gift that was left behind. But then there's that divine connection. So a life for all seasons. By mentioning the early dawn or night, spring flowers, showers of rain, Tagore suggests that the person's presence touched every part of our life. Every part, right? Whether during times of joy, which could be called spring, and difficult times called rain, there were a constant natural part, and they were a constant natural part of the world that we lived in, guest in our lives. I just love that. It's given me a whole new perspective of things. And then the gift left behind, the harp and the lamp, they symbolize the specific legacies that the departed left with you. The harp represents the music and joy they brought into your homes, while the lamp represents the wisdom and guidance that they provided. And the lamp also the inner light of heart and soul of your beloved. And in time of darkness, you just need to look to the lamp of light. And even though they're gone, these gifts remain. They remain in your house, for you to use. And of course, the divine connection. The final lines are the most powerful. Tagore suggests that when someone leaves us, they don't just disappear. They lead us closer to something eternal. Finding God's footprints at the door implies that the person was a divine messenger. And each person in your life is a messenger that teaches you something so beautiful. And their presence in your life was a blessing, and that leaves a permanent holy mark on your soul. So in short, the poem, The Guest, tells us this person was a guest sent to us from a higher place, and they have departed. The light and music they brought have made this home and our lives sacred forever. So as we each light a candle today in remembrance, let these flames represent the lamps of our loved one brought into our homes and our hearts as you hold the light. May your heart be opened and softened, finding peace in the quiet glow. May your memories be gentle and sweet, like the fragrance of these spring flowers. And may your love shine bright, not just in this room, but in every dark corner where you carry the legacy. And as we look upon these lights, may we be reminded that though they have taken their leave, the path they walk remains holy. And may you find comfort in the footprints they left behind on the threshold of your life, guiding you toward an everlasting light. And now I'm going to invite Dirk Schreiber to take over for me. I would ask you, those who light your candles first, could you start in the back row and then go to the middle and the end so that we don't burn our arms and sleeves as we reach over. Dirk, would you please join?
Thank you, Aubrey Lynn. Ooh, little high. Okay, thank you all for being here. We're going to honor our loved ones who have made their transitions, but are still here with us in your hearts and in your minds. And how we're going to do this, I am going to call the name of the person or persons who are lighting the candles. And will you please come up then, and then I will read the names of your loved one or loved ones, and then you light the candles. And then you may be seated, and then I'll call the next person. And I do want to apologize right now if I mispronounce anybody's name, so bear with me, please. Okay, I will call Jill Anderson. Ross Anderson. Steve and Molly Boyle. Tom Peckman. And Iris and Carl Zeiler. Isel Geldenice. Cobus Geldenice. And Mari Ice. Brian Gilmer. Daniel Gilmer. Tom and Mary Ellen Kloiber. Joe Kloiber. Jason Weaver. Reverend Ginny Stuvey. Linda Lown. Pam Hurdle will be lighting the candle for Linda. Paul Lown. Aubrey Lynn. Patrick Feely.
I can't make it work.
Put your hand on my hand.
Thank you.
Mark Michelson. Jim Michelson. Lynn Thornton. Chris Michaud. Bill Jepson. Dennis Drexler. Rhonda Drexler. Mike Muckerhide. Carol Donnermeyer. Dale Muckerhide. David Muckerhide. Angela Schumacher. James Murphy. Davide and Siobhan Perezi, Everin Perezzi, Carrie Smith, Harold and Irene Giese, Agnes Sorens, Agnes Ferguson, and Daniel Ferguson. And Jill Anderson, she will be lighting the candles for Leanne Tevish. Michael Tevish, Darla Williams Altman, Joan Williams, Leroy Williams, and thank you very much. Like Aubrey said, look at the glow of these candles. That is the glow of your loved ones, forever in your hearts, forever in your minds. Let's just take a moment of silence, and then Aubrey Lynn will take back over. Thank you very much.